She grabbed a billionaire's sleeve and screamed, seconds before a deadly train departed. In a crowded Chicago train station, a young black woman named Tasha grabbed a billionaire's sleeve and begged him not to board his train. People laughed. Security dragged her away. No one believed her. But what she saw the night before would stop a tragedy, expose a decade-old lie, and prove that sometimes the quietest voice is the one that saves everyone. The morning rush at Chicago Union Station moved like a living machine, heels striking marble, suitcases rolling, voices echoing beneath the high arched ceiling. The air smelled faintly of coffee and cold steel, and the overhead announcements blurred into a constant hum. No one stopped. No one slowed. Everyone had somewhere to be, except her. Tasha Williams pushed through the crowd, her breath ragged, her heart pounding so hard it drowned out everything else. Her worn sneakers slipped slightly on the polished floor as she forced her way forward, eyes locked on a single figure ahead. "Sir, wait!" But her voice vanished into the noise. Up ahead, Edward Carter stepped toward the platform, flanked by two men in dark suits. His charcoal coat moved with quiet precision, every step measured, every movement controlled. People parted instinctively around him, like he carried his own gravity. Tasha saw the train doors open, a flash of metal, a memory of a voice in the dark. "Carter won't make it past the bridge." Her chest tightened. "No. No, no." She broke into a run. A woman cursed as Tasha brushed past her. A man turned, annoyed. Someone dropped a coffee cup, but Tasha didn't look back. All she could see was the platform ahead, the train, the man about to step inside. "Sir." Still nothing. Her fingers stretched forward and caught his sleeve. Everything stopped. Edward Carter turned, his body stiffening as he felt the sudden pull. His security reacted instantly. One hand grabbed Tasha's wrist. Another shoved her back hard. "Ma'am, step away. Now." The force sent her stumbling. Her knee hit the marble floor with a sharp crack, pain shooting up her leg. Gasps rippled through the nearby crowd. Phones came out. Always phones. "Hey, what is she doing? Is she serious right now? Someone call security." Tasha barely heard them. She scrambled up, grabbing at Carter's coat again before they could stop her. "Please, don't board that train." Her voice broke, loud and raw, cutting through the station like shattered glass. A murmur swept through the crowd. Edward Carter stared down at her hand gripping his sleeve, then at her face. Disheveled hair, dark circles under her eyes. A faded cleaning badge clipped crookedly to her uniform. Invisible in every other moment. But not now. "Ma'am, you need to let go," one of the guards said, tightening his grip on her arm. Tasha shook her head, her fingers refusing to release the fabric. "You don't understand," she said, her voice trembling but urgent. "Something's wrong with that train. I saw them last night. They were under it. They were, all right. That's enough." The guard shoved her back again, harder this time. She lost her balance completely and fell, her palms slamming against the cold marble. A ripple of laughter spread through the crowd, uneasy at first, then louder as the tension broke into spectacle. "Oh my God. She's crazy. She's probably high. Look at her clothes. Get her out of here." Tasha's face burned. Not from the fall, from the voices, from the way they looked at her, like she wasn't even human. She pushed herself up, ignoring the sting in her hands. "I'm telling the truth!" she shouted, louder now, desperation rising. They were tampering with the train. Two men. No uniforms. "They said your name." "Call the police!" someone yelled from behind the crowd. More phones lifted, recording, capturing, judging. Edward Carter's expression hardened. For a brief moment, it looked like he might speak. But then he glanced at his security. Handle it. The words were calm, distant, like this wasn't his problem. Tasha felt something inside her crack. "No, please," she said, her voice dropping, almost breaking. "You have to listen. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't real. I wouldn't—" The guard grabbed her arm again. "Ma'am, you're causing a disturbance. You need to leave. I'm trying to save you." Her voice echoed. For a second, just a second, the noise of the station seemed to thin. Edward Carter turned back. Not fully. Just enough. His eyes met hers, and something changed. It wasn't sympathy. It wasn't belief. It was hesitation. Tasha held his gaze, her breath shaking, her entire body trembling from adrenaline and fear. "You're going to die if you get on that train," she whispered. Not shouted, not dramatic, just certain. The kind of certainty that doesn't come from panic, but from knowing. A flicker crossed his face. Behind him, the train conductor called out, "All aboard!" The doors remained open, waiting. The crowd shifted, restless now. "Sir, we need to move," one of the guards said quietly. Edward didn't respond. His eyes stayed on hers. Tasha didn't move, didn't blink, didn't breathe. Around them, the station returned to motion. People walking, voices rising, the world continuing as if nothing mattered. But in that moment, it did. Edward Carter stood at the edge of the train, and for the first time that morning, he didn't take the next step. Why would a girl with nothing risk everything to stop a man like him? And more importantly, what had she seen? The answer didn't come right away, because before that moment, before the grab, before the fall, before the world turned its eyes on her, there had been another morning. A quieter one. A colder one. 48 hours earlier. Tasha Williams woke to the faint sound of traffic humming past the parking lot. It wasn't loud, not really. Just a distant rush of tires on pavement, steady and indifferent. The kind of sound you only noticed when you didn't have walls to block it out. Condensation covered the inside of the windshield, turning the world outside into a blurred gray haze. For a second, she didn't move. She just lay there, staring up at the roof of the car, listening, breathing, counting, making sure her mother was still doing the same. "Mom?" she whispered. A soft shift came from the passenger seat. "I'm here, baby," Gloria Williams replied, her voice thin but steady. Tasha exhaled slowly. The tension in her chest loosened just a little. The old Honda Civic smelled faintly of damp fabric and something metallic, something tired. A wool blanket was tucked carefully around Gloria's shoulders, pulled up to her chin. Her hands rested on top of it, trembling just slightly, too slightly. That was the problem. Tasha pushed herself up and leaned forward, peering through the fogged glass. The back of a grocery store loomed beyond the parking lot. Faded signage, flickering security lights. A shopping cart tipped on its side near a dumpster. Same place as last night. Same place as the night before that. "We'll move before they open," Tasha said quietly. "Don't worry." Gloria gave a small nod, but her eyes didn't quite focus. Tasha reached under the driver's seat and pulled out a mason jar. Inside, crumpled bills and loose coins shifted with a dull clink as she twisted off the lid. She poured everything into her palm. Quarters, dimes, a few wrinkled ones. She counted once, then again. $31.40. She closed her eyes. Insulin was 82. Her fingers tightened around the money, pressing it into her skin like she could force it to multiply. "Keep it," Gloria murmured, watching her. "We need food." We need both, Tasha said. Her voice was calm, too calm. She didn't want her mother to hear the fear hiding underneath. We'll figure it out, she added, softer now. We always do. Gloria smiled faintly, but it didn't reach her eyes. Tasha tucked the money back into the jar and slid it under the seat again, like hiding it might somehow make it last longer. Stay warm, okay? She said, reaching forward to adjust the blanket. Her hand brushed her mother's. Cold. Too cold. I'll be back in a few hours. You always say that, Gloria whispered, and I always come back. Tasha forced a smile, even though her chest felt tight. She opened the car door, and a sharp gust of early morning air rushed in, biting against her skin. The sky was still pale, not quite sunrise, the kind of gray that made everything feel unfinished. She stepped out, closed the door gently, and leaned against it for just a second. Just 1 second. Her eyes drifted across the parking lot. That's when she saw him. An older man sat near the edge of the lot, wrapped in layers of mismatched clothing. His back was hunched, his hands cupped around nothing, like he was holding on to heat that wasn't there. He looked up when he noticed her. Their eyes met. And then he looked away, like he expected her to do the same. Tasha hesitated. Her stomach growled. She hadn't eaten since yesterday afternoon. Slowly, she reached into her pocket and pulled out a small paper bag. Inside, half a breakfast sandwich she'd saved from her shift the night before. Cold, slightly soggy, but still food. She looked back at the car, at her mother, then at the man again. He wasn't watching her anymore. He was staring at the ground. Tasha walked over. Hey, she said gently. He flinched, startled, then looked up. I don't have much, she added, holding out the bag. But you can have this. The man blinked. For a moment, he didn't move. You sure? He asked, his voice rough. She nodded. Yeah. He took the bag slowly, like it might disappear if he moved too fast. Thank you, he said. Tasha smiled faintly. It's nothing, but it wasn't nothing. It was breakfast. It was energy. It was something she didn't have to give. She turned and walked back toward the car without waiting for another word. Behind her, she heard the soft rustle of the bag opening. A pause. Then, God bless you. She didn't turn around. She just lifted her hand slightly in acknowledgement and kept walking. Back at the car, she slid into the driver's seat and started the engine. It coughed twice before catching, the sound rough and uneven. Gloria stirred beside her. Everything okay? She asked. Tasha nodded, even though her stomach ached. Yeah, she said quietly. Everything's okay. She pulled out of the parking lot, merging onto the road as the first light of morning began to break across the horizon. The city was waking up, people heading to work, coffee shops opening, lives moving forward. Tasha tightened her grip on the steering wheel. $31. A mother who needed medicine, a world that barely noticed her, and still, she had chosen to give something away. Why would someone with nothing still choose kindness? And how much would that choice cost her? By the time Tasha pulled into the narrow side street off South Halstead, the sun had climbed just high enough to cast a pale gold glow across the cracked sidewalks. The Silver Plate Diner sat on the corner, its neon sign flickering even in daylight, buzzing like it had something to say but didn't quite have the strength. Inside, the smell of grease and burnt coffee wrapped around her the moment she stepped through the door. Late, a voice snapped from behind the counter. Tasha didn't even look up. She already knew. Morning, Mr. Collins, she said, tying her apron quickly as she moved past him. Don't morning me, he muttered, checking his watch like it was a courtroom clock. "You're 3 minutes behind. Tables don't wait." "I got here as fast as I could," she said, her voice calm, controlled. He gave a short laugh. "Yeah? Well, maybe next time you move faster." She nodded. Always nod. Always swallow it. Because arguing meant fewer shifts, and fewer shifts meant no money, and no money meant... She pushed the thought away before it could finish. The diner was already half full. Forks clinked against plates, chairs scraped the floor, and the low hum of conversation filled the room. Tasha grabbed a coffee pot and stepped into the current, moving between tables like she had done 1,000 times before. "Refill, sir?" she asked, stopping beside a man in a pressed blue shirt. He didn't look at her, just held his cup out without a word. She poured. "Thanks," she added gently. Nothing. Not even a nod. She moved on. Table 6, 2 women, mid-conversation, barely pausing as she set down their plates. Table 8, a couple arguing quietly, tension thick between them. Table 3, a young mother with a little boy who swung his legs beneath the chair, knocking his shoe against the table leg over and over again. "Careful, sweetheart," Tasha said with a soft smile as she placed a glass of water in front of him. The boy looked up at her, eyes wide. "Sorry," he whispered. "It's okay," she said. "You're doing just fine." The mother gave her a quick, tired smile. "Thank you," she mouthed. Tasha nodded back and moved on. Behind her, a sharp snap cut through the air. "Hey!" She froze, then turned. The man at table 4 was staring at her, fingers still poised mid-air from the snap. "My coffee's cold." "No hello, no please. Just that." Tasha walked over, her smile already in place. "I'm sorry about that, sir. I'll bring you a fresh one right away." He leaned back in his chair, eyeing her up and down like she was something on the menu he wasn't sure he wanted. "Yeah, you do that." She turned before the silence could stretch any longer. In the kitchen, the noise hit harder, orders being shouted, pans clanging, steam rising in bursts. Tasha filled a fresh mug, her hands steady even as her chest tightened. Invisible. That's what it felt like. Like she could stand in the middle of a room full of people and still not exist, except when something went wrong. Then suddenly, everyone saw her. She stepped back out and set the coffee down in front of the man. "Here you go, sir." He took a sip, paused. "About time." "No, thank you." Tasha nodded anyway. Always nod. Always move. Hours passed like that. One table, then another, then another. The rush came and went in waves, each one pulling her deeper into the rhythm until she stopped thinking and just reacted. Smile. Serve. Apologize. Repeat. By mid-afternoon, her feet ached, her stomach was empty, and her head buzzed with the constant noise. In the back hallway, she leaned against the wall for just a second, closing her eyes. Just a second. "Break's over," Collins called from somewhere behind her. She opened her eyes immediately. Didn't say you were," he cut in. "Just saying. Don't get comfortable." She pushed herself off the wall and walked back out. At the register, a small pile of bills sat beside her name. Her tips. She counted them quickly. $6. And some coins. That was it. She stared at the money for a moment, her fingers hovering just above it. $6. She thought of the jar under the seat. 31. Now 37. Still not enough. Never enough. She closed her hand around the bills and slipped them into her apron pocket. Behind her, Collins scoffed. "Don't spend it all in one place." Tasha didn't respond. didn't even turn around. Because what was there to say? That $6 could mean the difference between her mother eating or not? That every coin felt like a lifeline? He wouldn't understand. People like him never did. Outside, the sky had shifted to a dull gray, clouds rolling in low and heavy. The air felt thicker, colder. Tasha stepped out onto the sidewalk, pulling her jacket tighter around her. She had a few hours before her next shift, a few hours to check on her mother, a few hours to pretend everything was under control. As she walked toward the street, she passed a bus stop. A teenage girl sat there, her head buried in her arms, shoulders shaking, crying. People walked past her. Some glanced. Most didn't. Tasha slowed, stopped. For a moment, she just stood there. Then she turned back. "Hey," she said softly, stepping closer. "You okay?" The girl looked up, eyes red, mascara smeared. "No," she whispered. Tasha sat down beside her without hesitation. "You want to talk about it?" The girl shook her head. Tasha nodded. "That's okay." She reached into her pocket, pulling out the crumpled bills she had just earned. $6, her entire tip for the day. She looked at it, then at the girl, then she held it out. "Take it," she said. The girl blinked. "I can't." "You can," Tasha replied gently. "Whatever you're dealing with, you don't have to deal with it alone." The girl hesitated, then slowly took the money. "Thank you," she whispered. Tasha smiled. "It's just a little help," but again, it wasn't. It was everything she had just earned. She stood up, brushing off her jeans. "You're gonna be okay," she added. The girl nodded, clutching the money tightly. As Tasha walked away, the wind picked up, carrying the faint sound of traffic and distant sirens. She didn't look back. Didn't think about what she had just given away. Because that's who she was. Even when she had nothing, she gave. Even when the world ignored her, she cared. But somewhere, far beneath the noise of the city, something was already moving. Something she hadn't seen yet. Something waiting. And when it surfaced, it would demand everything she had left. By the time the sky turned fully dark, Chicago felt like a different city. The warmth of the day had drained away, replaced by a damp chill that crept into bones and stayed there. Streetlights flickered on one by one, casting long yellow reflections across wet pavement. The noise softened too. Fewer voices, fewer cars, just the occasional rumble of buses and distant sirens echoing through the streets. Tasha stood outside Union Station, pulling her jacket tighter as the wind slipped through the thin fabric. Her shift didn't start for another 5 minutes. She leaned against the cold stone wall, closing her eyes briefly. Her body ached from the diner. Her stomach was empty again. But she didn't let herself think about that. Not yet. Inside, the station was quieter than it had been that morning, but not empty. It never really was. A few late travelers moved through the hall, their footsteps echoing across the marble floor. A janitor pushed a cart slowly along one side. Somewhere in the distance, a train horn sounded low and long. Tasha clocked in without a word. The night supervisor, Collins, barely looked up. "You're on platforms 2 and 3 tonight," he said, flipping through a clipboard. "And don't wander off." "I don't wander," she replied quietly. He smirked. "Just do your job." She grabbed her mop and bucket and headed down the long corridor toward the platforms. The fluorescent lights above buzzed faintly, some flickering, some dimmer than the rest. The deeper she went, the quieter it got. Platform 3 was nearly empty. One train sat idle on the track, its metal surface catching the pale light in dull reflections. The sign above read, "Express 615, Washington, D.C., 6:15 a.m." Tasha didn't think much of it. Not yet. She set down her bucket, dipped the mop, and began to work. Back and forth, back and forth. The sound of wet fabric sliding across tile echoed softly in the space. For a while, that was all there was. Just her. Just the rhythm. Just the quiet. Then a sound. Metal. Sharp. Out of place. Tasha paused, lifting the mop slightly off the floor. She listened. Nothing. Just the hum of the lights. She exhaled and went back to work. Back and forth. Back. There it was again. A dull clank. Then another. Not random. Not accidental. Rhythmic. Intentional. Tasha straightened slowly, her eyes drifting toward the far end of the platform. Beyond the train, near the maintenance bay, shadows moved faintly against the wall. She frowned. Maintenance usually wrapped up hours earlier, and they always wore reflective vests. She set the mop aside, quietly, carefully. Her sneakers made almost no sound as she stepped closer, moving along the edge of the platform, keeping to the darker patches where the light didn't quite reach. The air felt colder there. Still. She reached a concrete pillar and pressed herself against it, peering around the edge. Two men. One crouched beneath the train, partially hidden by the undercarriage. The other stood nearby, his back turned, holding a phone close to his ear. Neither wore a uniform. Their clothes were too clean, too fitted, not maintenance. Tasha's heartbeat picked up. She leaned in just a little more. The man under the train worked with a wrench, twisting something loose near the coupling mechanism. The metal groaned softly with each turn. The other man spoke into the phone, his voice low, controlled. No, it's already set. A pause. Tasha held her breath. We're good. Carter boards in the morning. He won't make it past the bridge. Her chest tightened. Carter. The name hit her like a spark. The man under the train gave a short laugh. Clean job, he muttered. No trace. Tasha's grip tightened against the pillar. Her mind raced. Carter. She didn't know much about him, but she had heard the name before. Everyone had. Big business, transportation, money that moved cities. And someone was planning. Her elbow brushed against the mop handle she had left leaning nearby. It slipped, fell, clattered against the metal railing with a sharp, echoing crash. The sound exploded through the empty platform. Both men froze. The one on the phone lowered it slowly. Silence. Heavy. Thick. Then, footsteps. Fast. Coming toward her. Tasha pressed her back flat against the pillar. Her breath caught somewhere between her chest and her throat. Her heart pounded so loudly she was sure it echoed. The footsteps stopped, just on the other side. She could see the edge of a shoe, polished. Still. Did you hear that? One of them asked. Yeah. A pause. Tasha didn't move, didn't blink, didn't breathe. Another second, then another. Probably nothing, the other said finally. Let's go, A door creaked open somewhere behind the train, then shut. Footsteps faded. Gone. Tasha stayed where she was. 1 second. 2. 5. 10. Only when the silence settled back into place did she slowly step out from behind the pillar. The platform looked exactly the same. Empty. Still. Like nothing had happened. But everything had. She turned toward the train, her eyes scanning the undercarriage where the cess had been working. She didn't understand the mechanics of it, not really. But she understood enough. Something had been changed, something that wasn't supposed to be. Her hands trembled slightly as she stepped back. Carter boards in the morning. He won't make it past the bridge. The words echoed in her mind. This wasn't a rumor. This wasn't a guess. It was real, and it was happening tomorrow. Tasha turned and ran. The corridor felt longer than before, the fluorescent lights harsher, the air thinner. Her footsteps echoed as she pushed through the doors toward the security office. Inside, Collins sat at his desk, leaning back in his chair, scrolling through his phone like the world outside didn't exist. "Mr. Collins," she said, breathless, "I need to report something." He didn't look up. "What now?" "There are 2 men on platform 3. They're not staff. They were under the train. I heard them. They said—" He sighed loudly and finally looked at her. "You're a cleaner, Tasha," he said. "Not security. I know what I saw. You know what you think you saw." His tone sharpened. "Big difference." She stepped closer. "They said someone named Carter wouldn't make it past the bridge. They were tampering with the train. Enough." He stood up, slow and deliberate, his expression tightening. "You're not paid to investigate. You're paid to mop floors." Her jaw clenched. "This is serious." "So is your job," he snapped. "And you're about to lose it if you keep making up stories." "I'm not making it up." He stepped closer, his voice dropping. "Listen to me carefully. If you go around spreading this kind of nonsense, I'll have you off this schedule by morning. No warnings, no references. You understand?" Tasha stared at him. Her chest rose and fell slowly. He wasn't going to help. He wasn't even going to check. To him, she was nothing, just like everyone else. He turned away, already done with the conversation. "Get back to work." The dismissal hit harder than the threat. Tasha stood there for a moment longer. Then she turned and walked out. The hallway felt colder now, heavier. She made her way to the locker room and sat down on the wooden bench, staring at her hands. They were shaking. Not from fear, from knowing. If she pushed this, she'd lose everything: her job, her income, the little stability she had left. Her mother needed insulin, needed food, needed her, but if she stayed quiet, someone would die, maybe more than one. She closed her eyes. The image of the train flashed in her mind. The sound of metal. The words. "Carter won't make it past the bridge." Her hands tightened into fists. Slowly, she stood up, because deep down she already knew what kind of person she was and what she couldn't ignore. If no one else was going to listen, she would find him herself, even if it cost her everything. What she didn't know yet was just how much everything really meant. The locker room felt smaller than usual. The air sat heavy, unmoving, like it had nowhere to go. A single fluorescent light buzzed above her, flickering just enough to make the shadows twitch along the walls. Tasha sat on the wooden bench, her elbows resting on her knees, her hands clasped tightly together. She could still hear it. The metal. The voices. "Carter won't make it past the bridge." She pressed her palms together harder, trying to steady the tremor in her fingers. Outside, somewhere far down the corridor, a train horn sounded low and distant. It rolled through the station like a warning that nobody was listening to. Tasha stood up. She couldn't sit there. Not with that voice still echoing in her head. Not with the image of those men under the train burned into her mind. She stepped out into the hallway again. The station had gone quieter now, the late-night lull settling in. A few travelers drifted through the main concourse, their footsteps slow, tired. The glow from the overhead lights cast long reflections across the polished floor. Everything looked normal. That was the worst part. She walked back toward the security office. Not running this time. Not panicking. Just determined. When she stepped inside, Collins was still there, still leaning back in his chair, still scrolling through his phone like nothing in the world could interrupt him. He didn't even look up. "I thought I told you to get back to work." Tasha stepped closer to the desk. "I'm not letting this go," she said. That got his attention. He sighed, long and irritated, then set his phone down slowly. "Here we go again. There are people in danger," she continued, her voice steady now. "You don't have to believe me, but you can at least check the train. That's your job." He stared at her for a moment. Then he laughed. Not loud, not angry, just dismissive. "You really think you know better than everyone else here? I think I heard something that needs to be checked." "You heard something," he repeated, leaning forward slightly. "At 2 in the morning, in an empty station, after working 2 jobs, running on what? No sleep? No food?" Tasha didn't answer, because he wasn't wrong, but that didn't make him right. "You're tired," Collins continued, his voice taking on a mock sympathy. "You're stressed. People start imagining things when they get like that." "I didn't imagine it." "Yeah?" he said, raising an eyebrow. "Then where are they now?" Tasha opened her mouth, closed it again. Because she didn't know, they were gone, like they had never been there. Collins leaned back in his chair again, satisfied. "That's what I thought." She stepped closer. "Please," she said, softer now. "Just send someone to look. That's all I'm asking." He shook his head. "I'm not waking up maintenance because you think you heard a ghost story." "It's not a ghost story. To you," he said. "To me, it's a cleaner stepping out of line." The words hit harder than they should have. Cleaner. Not a person. Not someone worth listening to. Just a role. A position. Replaceable. "You don't get it," Tasha said, her voice tightening. "If something happens, if that train leaves and something goes wrong, then that's on the people whose job it is to make sure it doesn't." He cut in sharply. "And that's not you." Silence filled the room, thick, final. Tasha stood there, staring at him, waiting, hoping. But nothing changed. Collins picked his phone back up. Conversation over. Just like that. Tasha felt something inside her sink, not break, not yet. Just drop, like a stone hitting the bottom of a well. She turned and walked out. The hallway stretched ahead of her, long and empty. Her footsteps echoed again, louder now in the silence. Back to work. That's what she was supposed to do. Go back. Pick up the mop. Pretend she hadn't seen anything. Pretend she hadn't heard anything. Pretend none of it mattered. Her hand brushed against the handle of the mop as she passed it. She stopped, looked down at it. Water still pooled at the base of the bucket, reflecting the flickering light above. For a moment, she just stood there. Then she kept walking. Past the platform, past the train, past the place where it had happened, out into the main concourse. The clock above the departure board read 3:28 a.m. 3 hours until that train left. 3 hours until... She stopped herself. No. She couldn't think like that. She walked outside, the cold air hitting her face immediately. The city felt quieter now, the streets nearly empty, the sky a deep blue-black stretching overhead. Her car sat where she had left it, waiting. Inside, Gloria slept curled under the blanket, her breathing shallow but steady. Tasha stood beside the door, staring at her. Her chest tightened. This was real. Everything was real. Her mother needed her, needed money, needed stability. And if she pushed this, if she went against Collins, if she caused a scene, she could lose everything. Her job, her only steady income, the little bit of control she still had. She rested her forehead lightly against the cold glass of the car window. "What am I supposed to do?" she whispered. Inside, Gloria shifted slightly, murmuring something in her sleep. Tasha closed her eyes. She thought about the man she had seen, the wrench, the words. "Carter won't make it past the bridge." Then she thought about the people who would be on that train. Strangers, just like her, just like the man in the parking lot that morning, just like the girl at the bus stop. People with lives, families, stories, people who didn't know what was coming. She stepped back from the car. Her breath came out in a slow cloud, and in that moment, the choice became clear. Not easy, not safe, but clear. She wasn't the kind of person who could walk away from something like this, even if it cost her everything. She opened the car door quietly, careful not to wake her mother, and reached inside to pull the blanket up a little higher around her shoulders. "I'll be back," she whispered. Then she closed the door and turned. The station loomed behind her, lights glowing against the dark. Inside it, a train, a timeline, a decision waiting to be made. Tasha took a breath, then another, and started walking back toward the entrance. Because if no one else was going to listen, she would make him listen, even if she had to stand in front of that train to do it. What she didn't realize was that by the time morning came, there would be no turning back. The sky over Chicago shifted slowly from black to deep blue, then to a pale gray that softened the edges of everything it touched. The city stirred awake in layers. First the distant rumble of buses, then the hum of traffic, then the quiet footsteps of early commuters filtering into Union Station. Tasha hadn't slept. She sat behind the wheel of her car in the parking structure, her hands wrapped loosely around the steering wheel, her eyes fixed on the entrance across the street. Her reflection stared back at her in the rearview mirror, tired, hollow, but steady. Inside the car, Gloria slept, her breathing shallow but calm. For a moment, Tasha let herself just listen to it. Inhale, exhale, a fragile rhythm that grounded her. "I'm sorry," she whispered, barely audible. She reached over and gently adjusted the blanket around her mother's shoulders again. Her fingers lingered there for a second longer than necessary. Then she pulled back. Because if she stayed, if she let herself think about it too long, she might choose wrong. She stepped out of the car and closed the door quietly. The cold morning air hit her face, sharp and real. It cleared something in her head. Not the fear. That was still there. But the hesitation. That was gone. Across the street, Union Station stood tall and indifferent, its grand stone facade glowing faintly in the early light. People moved in and out through the large doors, bundled in coats, coffee cups in hand, minds already somewhere else. They had no idea. Tasha crossed the street. Each step felt heavier than the last, like she was walking into something she couldn't escape from. Inside, the station was alive again. Announcements echoed overhead. Suitcases rolled across marble. Voices overlapped in a constant stream of motion. Tasha moved through it all like a ghost, her eyes scanning every face, every movement, searching. Carter. She didn't know what he looked like exactly. Only a name. Only a target. Only a man who didn't know he was about to die. Her heart pounded as she reached the main concourse. The departure board flickered above her, lines of destinations shifting in soft green light. Express 615, Washington, D.C. On time. 6:15. A.M. still there. Still coming. She exhaled slowly. "Okay," she whispered to herself. "Okay." She moved toward platform 3. Every second felt louder, every step sharper. She reached the ramp leading down to the platform, just as a sleek black SUV pulled up outside the VIP entrance across the hall. Tasha froze. Two men stepped out first, security by the look of them. Then him, Edward Carter. Even without knowing his face, she knew. The way people moved around him, the way space opened up without him asking, the way everything seemed to bend just slightly in his direction. He was taller than she expected. Silver hair, perfectly kept. A dark overcoat that looked like it had never known wear. Controlled. Composed. Untouchable. Beside him, holding his hand, was a boy. Maybe 10. Small compared to the man, but walking with the same quiet awareness, like he understood the weight of where he stood. Tasha's chest tightened. That was him. That was the man. Carter. And the train was waiting. Her feet didn't move at first. For just a moment, just one moment, she hesitated. Because this was real now. Not a thought. Not a possibility. A choice. If she stepped forward, everything changed. Her job, her life, her mother, everything. Behind her, someone brushed past her shoulder. "Watch it," they muttered. The world didn't stop. It never did. Tasha looked at Carter again, at the boy beside him, at the train beyond. Then she thought about the night before, the wrench, the words. He won't make it past the bridge. Her hands clenched into fists. "No," she whispered. "Not again. Not like this. Not after everything." She started walking, then faster, then running. The sound of her footsteps disappeared into the noise of the station as she pushed through the crowd, her eyes locked on him. "Sir!" Nothing. He kept walking. Closer now. "Sir!" Still nothing. Her heart pounded louder. Faster. The platform ramp came into view. The train doors were open. Time was slipping. "Please!" Her voice broke through the noise this time. Carter slowed. Just slightly. Tasha didn't stop. She ran the last few steps and reached out. Her fingers closing around his sleeve. Everything snapped into focus. The world narrowed to a single point. This moment. This choice. "Please don't board that train." The words tore out of her, raw and desperate. Security moved instantly, hands grabbing, pushing, the crowd reacting, phones lifting, voices rising. But Tasha held on, because this was the moment she had chosen, the moment she had walked back into the station for, the moment that would cost her everything, or save someone else. And as Edward Carter turned to face her, as his eyes met hers, she realized something else. This wasn't just about him anymore. This was about who she was, and who she refused to stop being. Even now, even here, even when the entire world was about to turn against her, and somewhere deep inside, she knew. There was no going back. The moment her fingers tightened around Edward Carter's sleeve, the world didn't slow down. It accelerated. "Ma'am, let go." The first hand came down hard on her wrist, firm and immediate. Another grabbed her shoulder, pulling her back with force that sent her balance tilting. But she didn't let go. "Please!" she cried, her voice cracking under the pressure. "You don't understand. Something's wrong with that train." The crowd reacted instantly. Phones lifted higher, voices sharpened. "What's going on? Is this some kind of stunt? She's grabbing him. Someone do something." Edward Carter stood still, his body turned halfway toward her, his expression unreadable. His security tightened their hold. "Step back," one of them ordered. They pulled harder. This time her grip broke. Tasha stumbled backward, her heel catching the edge of the ramp. The world tilted, then slammed into her as she hit the marble floor. The impact shot through her hands, her knees, her ribs. A gasp rippled through the crowd. Then, laughter. Not all of them, but enough. Oh my God. She really thought that would work? Look at her, Tasha tried to push herself up, her palms trembling against the cold surface. Her breath came in short, uneven bursts. Please, she said again, weaker now, but still reaching forward. Just listen to me. Someone tampered with the train. Enough. The voice cut through everything. Sharp. Familiar. Tasha turned. Collins. He pushed through the crowd with that same tight, satisfied smile, his clipboard tucked under his arm like authority itself. I know her, he said loudly, addressing Carter's security. She's one of the cleaners. Been acting erratic all night. The word hit harder than the fall. Erratic. Tasha stared at him. That's not true, she said, her voice shaking. You know I reported. I warned you, Collins interrupted, stepping closer. Didn't I? He looked down at her like she was something stuck to his shoe. I told you what would happen if you kept this up. The crowd shifted. Phones leaned in, capturing every second. Tasha felt her chest tighten. Please, she said again, turning back toward Carter, her voice rising with desperation. I'm not lying. I saw them. They were under the train. They said your name. Ma'am, you need to calm down, one of the guards said, gripping her arm again. I am calm, she snapped, her voice breaking through the noise. You're about to get on that train and you're not going to make it past the bridge. Silence. For half a second. Then, she's crazy. Call the police. Get her out of here. Collins reached down, grabbing the collar of her uniform and pulling her up roughly. The fabric tightened around her throat, forcing her to her feet. You're done, he said quietly, close enough that only she could hear. Effective immediately. Her stomach dropped. No, you're fired. The words landed like a door slamming shut. Behind her, someone laughed. Another voice. Finally. Tasha's legs gave slightly, her balance barely holding as Collins let go. She staggered, catching herself on one knee again. The marble felt colder this time, harder, real. She looked up, at the crowd, at the phones, at the faces. No one stepped forward, no one helped. Not a single hand reached out. She was alone, completely. Her eyes found Carter again. He hadn't moved, not onto the train, not away from her. Just standing there, watching. Tasha swallowed hard, forcing her voice out one last time. That train is not safe, she said, softer now, but steady. I saw them break it. I saw everything. Her voice didn't echo this time. It didn't need to, because something else filled the silence. A smaller voice. Grandpa. Everyone turned. The boy. He stood beside Carter, his small hand still holding onto the older man's coat. His eyes were fixed on Tasha, not with fear, not with judgment, with something else. She's crying, he said quietly. The words cut through the noise in a way nothing else had. Carter looked down at him, then back at her. For the first time, something shifted in his expression. Not belief, not yet, but doubt. A flicker. A crack. Around them, the station seemed to hold its breath. Even the guards hesitated. Even Collins paused. Tasha stayed where she was, her chest rising and falling, her hands trembling, her eyes locked on his. This was it. Everything she had left, all of it, balanced on this one moment. Carter raised his hand slightly. The gesture was small, but it carried weight. The guards froze. Collins stopped speaking. Even the crowd quieted. Power didn't need volume. It just needed presence. Carter took a step forward, not toward the train, toward her. The distance between them closed slowly, deliberately, until he stood just a few feet away. He looked down at her, at the torn edge of her sleeve, at the dirt on her hands, at the fear in her eyes, and the certainty behind it. "What exactly did you see?" he asked. His voice was calm, measured, but this time, he was listening. Tasha inhaled sharply, her chest tightening with a mix of relief and urgency. "Two men," she said quickly. "Last night. Platform 3. They weren't maintenance. They had no uniforms. One was under the train with a wrench. He was loosening something. The other was on the phone." Carter didn't interrupt. "They said your name," she continued. "They said you wouldn't make it past the bridge. They said it would be clean, no trace." The words hung in the air, heavy, dangerous. Carter's expression didn't change much, but something in his eyes did. A calculation, a memory, a connection. Behind him, the conductor called out again, "All aboard!" The train doors remained open, waiting. Time stretched. The decision sat there, silent and absolute. Carter glanced once toward the train, then back at Tasha. The crowd shifted again, murmuring softly, unsure now. Collins stepped forward. "Sir, with all due respect, she's making this up. She's already been, I wasn't talking to you." The words were quiet, but final. Collins stopped mid-sentence, his face tightening. He stepped back. Carter's gaze returned to Tasha. "You're certain?" he asked. She didn't hesitate. "Yes. No fear, no doubt, just truth." Another second passed. Then Carter straightened and turned away from the train. "Reynolds," he said, addressing one of his security men. "We're not boarding." A ripple moved through the crowd. Confusion, shock, disbelief. The guards exchanged glances. "Sir?" one of them asked. "Call it in," Carter said. "Now." The train doors began to close. The conductor frowned, looking out toward the platform. But no one stopped it. No one questioned it. The train pulled away slowly, the metal wheels grinding softly against the tracks. Tasha watched it go, her chest tight. Her breath caught somewhere between relief and fear. Behind her, voices started again. What just happened? Did he really cancel? Because of her? Tasha didn't turn, didn't move, because something inside her told her this wasn't over, not even close. And as the train disappeared into the distance, she had no idea what was about to happen next. For a moment, everything felt still, not quiet, not calm, just suspended, like the entire station had taken a breath and forgotten how to let it go. Tasha remained on her knees, her palms flat against the cold marble, her chest rising and falling unevenly. The echoes of the departing train lingered in the air, a low rumble fading into the distance. Edward Carter stood a few feet away, his posture unchanged, but his attention no longer on her. Now it was on the train, on the tracks, on something far beyond the station walls. "Reynolds," he said again, quieter this time. His head of security was already on the phone, his voice sharp, controlled, cutting through the background noise. "Get me transit control, now!" The crowd didn't know what to do. Some lowered their phones. Others kept recording, unsure if they were witnessing something important or something ridiculous. Collins stood off to the side, his face tight, his jaw clenched. The confidence he'd had just minutes ago had thinned, replaced by something less certain. But he didn't speak. Not anymore. Tasha slowly pushed herself up, her legs unsteady beneath her. The adrenaline that had carried her this far was starting to fade, leaving behind a heavy, hollow exhaustion. She looked at Carter. He didn't look back. Not this time. He had already turned toward the bigger question. Was she telling the truth? Minutes passed. Not many. But enough to stretch. Enough to feel like something was building beneath the surface. 6:15 came and went. 6:18. 6:21. The departure board flickered quietly overhead. Passengers moved through the station again, but slower now. Voices were softer. Conversations were filled with glances, with uncertainty. What was that about? Did he really cancel his trip because of her? She looked serious. Tasha heard it all, but none of it mattered. Because now, there was only one thing that did. Her eyes drifted toward the large digital screens mounted along the walls. News channels played silently, captions scrolling beneath footage from across the city. Nothing yet. Her fingers curled slightly at her sides. Maybe she was wrong. The thought slipped in quietly, dangerously. What if she had misunderstood? What if the sounds, the voices, what if no? She shut it down immediately. She knew what she had heard. She knew what she had seen. And yet, doubt crept in anyway. Because that's what the world had taught her. That her voice didn't matter. That her instincts were wrong. That she was replaceable. Her chest tightened again. Across the platform, Carter checked his watch. 6:28. His expression remained calm, but there was something sharper now behind his eyes. Waiting. Calculating. Beside him, Lucas sat on a bench, his legs swinging slightly, a small book open in his lap. Every now and then he looked up toward Tasha, not staring, just checking, like he hadn't forgotten her. Tasha swallowed hard and looked away. 6:34. The station clock ticked forward, each second louder than the last. Then, a sound. Not from the station, from the screens. A sudden shift in the broadcast. The captions changed. Red, breaking, heads turned, one by one. Voices dropped. Someone gasped. Oh my God. The volume wasn't even on, but it didn't need to be. The images said everything. A train, off the tracks. Metal twisted at angles that didn't make sense. Emergency lights flashing in the distance. Smoke rising faintly against the morning sky. The caption scrolled. Breaking. Express train 615 derails near Wilmington. Multiple cars off tracks. Silence. Absolute. Then, chaos. What? That's the train? Wasn't that the one? People rushed closer to the screens, voices rising, overlapping, disbelief spilling into panic. Phones rang. Hands covered mouths. Someone dropped a bag, the contents spilling unnoticed across the floor. Tasha didn't move. She couldn't. Her body felt locked in place, her mind struggling to catch up to what her eyes were seeing. The train. That train. The one she had stopped him from boarding. Her breath came in short bursts, her chest tightening painfully. I told them, she whispered, though no one was listening. Across the platform, Edward Carter stood completely still. No movement. No reaction. Just stillness. His phone buzzed. He didn't answer. His eyes remained fixed on the screen. Lucas looked up at him. "Grandpa?" he asked softly. No response. Just the faint movement of Carter's jaw tightening, reality settling in, slow, heavy, unavoidable. Tasha's legs finally gave out, and she sank down onto the nearest bench, her hands gripping the edge tightly. Not from sadness, from relief. Overwhelming, shaking, relief. She closed her eyes, her head dropping forward as a long breath escaped her. "They're alive," she whispered. "They're alive." But the relief didn't last, because suddenly hands grabbed her again. Rough, firm. "What are you doing?" a voice snapped. Tasha's eyes flew open. Two station officers stood over her, their expressions stern. "You need to come with us." "What?" She blinked, confused. "Why?" "You were causing a disturbance earlier," one of them said. "We've had multiple reports." Collins stepped forward again, his voice smooth now, controlled. "I told you she was unstable," he said. "She's been acting erratically all night, making claims, grabbing passengers." "That's not true," Tasha said, pulling back. "I was trying to—" "Ma'am, you need to cooperate," the officer interrupted. Her wrists were pulled behind her. Cold metal snapped into place. The sound was small, but final. Tasha froze. Her breath caught. Handcuffs around her wrists. She stared down at them, her mind struggling to process what was happening. "I didn't do anything wrong," she said quietly. No one answered. Around her, the same crowd that had watched her fall now watched her again, still recording, still whispering, but different now, confused, uncertain, because the girl they had just seen mocked had been right, and yet she was the one being taken away. Tasha lifted her head slowly. Her eyes found Carter again. This time, he was looking at her, not past her, not through her, at her. For the first time since the screens had lit up red, there was no doubt left in his expression. Only one question remained. Why was she the one in handcuffs, when she had just saved his life? And more importantly, what was he going to do about it? For a brief moment, it seemed like the answer might come immediately. Edward Carter stepped forward. "Take those off," he said. His voice wasn't loud, but it carried. The officers paused. One of them glanced at Collins, then back at Carter, uncertain. "Sir, she was detained for—" I said, "Take them off." There was no anger in his tone, no raised voice, just certainty. The kind that didn't invite argument. The cuffs came off. Cold metal sliding away from Tasha's wrists, leaving faint red marks behind. She didn't move at first, didn't speak. She just stared at her hands like they didn't belong to her anymore. Carter crouched slightly, lowering himself just enough to meet her at eye level. "What's your name?" he asked. "Tasha," she said quietly. "Tasha Williams." He nodded once. "Tasha, you just saved my life." The words landed softly, but they hit deeper than anything that had been said all morning. She swallowed hard, her throat tightening. "I didn't do it for that," she whispered. "I know." He stood again, turning slightly toward his security. "Get me everything," he said. "Now." Reynolds nodded and stepped away immediately, already making calls. Around them, the crowd shifted again. But something had changed. The same people who had laughed earlier were now whispering differently. Not mocking, watching, reevaluating. But it didn't last. Because the world outside the station was already catching up. And it wasn't kind. By noon, the story had hit local news. By 2 o'clock, it was everywhere. And by evening, it had twisted into something unrecognizable. Tasha sat on the edge of a narrow motel bed, the television casting a flickering glow across the room. The wallpaper peeled slightly at the corners. The air smelled faintly of cleaning chemicals and old carpet. Her mother lay resting beside her, finally asleep after a proper meal and a dose of insulin delivered just hours earlier. For the first time in days, Gloria looked peaceful, but Tasha wasn't. On the screen, her own face stared back at her, frozen mid-frame, pulled from someone's phone video, blurry, unflattering, powerless. The headline read, "Disturbed woman disrupts billionaire at Chicago station hours before train incident." Tasha blinked slowly. "That's not," she whispered. The reporter continued, her voice calm, detached. "Sources close to the situation claim the woman, identified as 26-year-old Tasha Williams, has a history of unstable behavior and was removed from the station after aggressively confronting passengers." Tasha's fingers tightened around the edge of the bed. That's not true. But the screen didn't care. It never did. Another clip played, this one clearer, someone laughing behind the camera. "Look at this lady. She's grabbing him. What is she even doing?" The video cut just before the moment Carter stopped, just before the hesitation, just before the truth. Another caption appeared. "Witnesses say she appeared agitated and incoherent. Tasha let out a breath she didn't realize she was holding. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't misunderstanding. This was something else. Something deliberate." The phone on the small table buzzed. She glanced at it. An unknown number. She hesitated, then answered. "Hello?" Silence for a second. Then a smooth, controlled voice. "Ms. Williams." Her stomach tightened. "Who is this? My name is Richard Hale." The name meant nothing to her. Not yet. "I represent certain interests connected to Mr. Carter's business affairs." Her grip on the phone tightened. "What do you want?" A soft chuckle. "I'd like to help you." Tasha frowned. "Help me how?" "By making this situation go away." The words were calm, measured. But something underneath them felt wrong. "You've been through a difficult day," he continued. "Misunderstood. Misrepresented. That can be corrected." Tasha sat up straighter. "I don't need it corrected," she said. "I told the truth." "Yes," Hale replied smoothly, "and that's precisely the issue." A pause. Then, "If you retract your statement publicly, we can ensure you're compensated. Financially. Generously." Tasha's chest tightened. "Retract. You want me to say I lied?" "I want you to say you were mistaken," he corrected. "Fatigue, stress. Very understandable under your circumstances." Her eyes drifted toward her mother, toward the insulin on the table, toward the fragile stability she had just been handed. "How much?" she heard herself ask. The question slipped out before she could stop it. Hale didn't hesitate. "Enough to solve your problems." Silence filled the room. Heavy, tempting, dangerous. Tasha closed her eyes for a moment. She thought about the car, the cold nights, the empty jar, the constant fear. Then she thought about the train, the wreck, the people who could have died. "I'm not lying for you," she said. Her voice was quiet, but firm. Another pause, this one longer. Then, "That's unfortunate." The warmth in his tone disappeared. Completely. "You should consider your position carefully, Ms. Williams. People like you don't often get second chances." "I don't need one," she said. "I did the right thing." A faint exhale came through the line. "Then you'll have to live with the consequences." The call ended. Just like that. Tasha lowered the phone slowly. Her heart pounded harder now. Not from fear, from realization. This wasn't over. It had just begun. On the television, another headline flashed. Questions arise about woman's motives in train incident. The narrative was shifting. Fast. Too fast. And she was losing control of it. She reached for the remote and turned the TV off. Silence filled the room. She sat there for a long moment, staring at nothing. Then she looked at her hands again, still marked from the cuffs, still shaking. She had saved lives. She knew that. But the world didn't see it that way. And now someone powerful wanted to make sure it never did. Tasha leaned back against the wall, her eyes drifting closed for just a second. She felt tired, not just physically, deep, bone deep. But beneath that exhaustion, something else burned, a quiet, stubborn fire. Because no matter what they said, no matter how they twisted it, she knew what she had seen. And she wasn't going to pretend otherwise. Not now. Not ever. But as the night settled in around the small motel room, and the city outside continued to move without her, one question lingered in the silence. If the truth was this dangerous, how far would they go to bury it? Saturday morning came quietly. Too quietly. The city outside moved like nothing had happened. Cars passing, people talking, coffee shops opening. But inside the small motel room, the air felt heavier. Like something unseen had settled in and refused to leave. Tasha hadn't slept much. She sat by the window watching the light stretch across the parking lot, her reflection faint in the glass. Her phone lay beside her, silent now, but it felt louder than any noise. Richard Hale. The name repeated in her head. Not just a voice anymore. A presence. A threat. Behind her, Gloria stirred softly in bed. "You okay, baby?" her mother asked, her voice still weak but clearer than it had been days ago. Tasha turned, forcing a small smile. "Yeah, Mama. Just thinking." Gloria studied her for a moment. "You always think too much when something's wrong." Tasha didn't answer. Because something was wrong. She could feel it. Not just the lies on TV, not just the phone call. Something deeper. Something older. A knock came at the door. Soft. Measured. Tasha froze. Her heart skipped once, then again. She stood slowly, her body tense as she crossed the room. For a second, she hesitated with her hand on the knob. Then she opened it. A woman stood outside. Mid-50s, short hair, glasses hanging from a chain around her neck. Dressed simply, but there was something sharp in her eyes. "Ms. Williams?" she asked. Tasha nodded cautiously. "My name is Diane Porter," the woman said. "Mr. Carter asked me to speak with you." Relief hit first, then suspicion. "What about?" "Everything." A pause. Then Diane added quietly, "Especially the part they don't want you to remember." Tasha stepped aside. "Come in." Inside, Diane didn't waste time. She set a thin folder on the small table, opened it, and slid a few documents forward. "I've been looking into what happened yesterday," she said, "and into the man who called you." Tasha leaned closer. "Richard Hale." Diane nodded. "He's not just some businessman. He's been tied to infrastructure contracts for over 20 years. Rail, bridges, freight systems." Tasha's stomach tightened. "What does that have to do with me?" Diane looked at her carefully. "Everything." She pulled out another sheet. Older. Yellowed at the edges. "A train accident," Diane said. 10 years ago. Same region. Same type of line." Tasha's chest tightened. She didn't need to read the words. She already knew. "My dad," she whispered. Diane didn't look away. Yes. Tasha's hand trembled slightly as she picked up the paper. The name stared back at her. Marcus Williams. Cause of accident. Operator error. Case closed. Her jaw tightened. That's what they said, she murmured. That he messed up. That it was his fault. Diane slid another document across the table. Look closer. Tasha scanned it. Maintenance logs. Alterations. Missing inspections. Her breathing slowed, then stopped. This doesn't make sense. No, Diane said quietly. It doesn't. Because it wasn't an accident. The room felt smaller, tighter. What are you saying? Diane met her eyes. I'm saying the same pattern we saw this week. Tampering, cover-ups, false reports. It's all here, 10 years ago. Tasha shook her head slowly. No, that can't. The same oversight officer signed off on both reports, Diane continued. And guess who funded the department he works for? Tasha didn't want to ask, but she did anyway. Hale? Diane nodded. Silence. Deep. Unmoving. Tasha stared at the papers in her hand. Her father's name blurred for a moment. I spent 10 years thinking he made a mistake, she said quietly. That he caused it. Her voice cracked. I told myself that every time something went wrong in my life, I just thought, that's what happens when you mess up like he did. Her fingers tightened around the page, but he didn't. The words came out slowly, carefully, like they were breaking something open. He didn't mess up, she whispered. Diane shook her head. No, he didn't. Tasha's chest rose sharply as something inside her shifted. Not grief, not exactly. Something heavier. Anger. 10 years. 10 years of carrying a lie. 10 years of blaming a man who had been trying to do his job. Her job. Protect people. Just like she had tried to do. Her eyes burned, but no tears came. Not yet. So this whole thing, she said, looking up. The train. Carter. Me. It's connected, Diane said. You just didn't know it. Tasha leaned back slowly, her mind racing. Richard Hale. The train. Her father. The same method. The same silence. They tried to kill him, she said. And they tried to silence you, Diane replied. Tasha let out a slow breath. And now they're trying to bury both. Diane nodded. That's how this works. Control the story. Control the truth. Tasha looked down at her hands again. At the faint marks from the cuffs. At the small scars from years of work. From survival. From being invisible. They picked the wrong person, she said quietly. Diane raised an eyebrow slightly. Oh? Tasha met her gaze. I've been ignored my whole life, she said. I've been told I don't matter, that I'm replaceable. Her voice didn't rise. It steadied. But I know what I saw. She pushed the documents back across the table. And I know what they did. A long pause. Then Diane gave a small, approving nod. Good, she said. Because if you decide to go forward with this, it's not going to be easy. I know. They'll attack your character, your past, your sanity. They already did. They'll try to scare you. Tasha thought about the phone call, the offer, the warning. She nodded. They already tried. Diane studied her for a moment longer, then closed the folder. Then the only question left is, she paused. Let it settle. Do you want the truth? Or do you want peace? Pause. Tasha looked out the window. At the city. At the life that had never made space for her. At the world that had tried to erase her voice. Then she thought about her father. His smile. His uniform. The way he used to tell her, if something's wrong, you say something. She turned back, her answer already there. I want his name back. Silence filled the room. But this time, it wasn't heavy. It was clear. Because the moment she said it, everything changed. And somewhere far beyond the motel walls, people were already preparing to stop her. The truth was no longer hidden. It was rising. And now, there was no stopping what came next. Monday morning arrived with cameras. They lined the sidewalk outside Carter Industries headquarters. News vans, reporters, photographers, microphones held like weapons, waiting for something to strike. The city didn't just wake up that day. It gathered. It watched. It waited. Inside the building, everything felt colder. Controlled. Deliberate. Tasha stood near the floor-to-ceiling windows of the conference room, looking down at the crowd below. The noise didn't reach her, but she could see it in the movement. The urgency, the expectation, the hunger for a story. For days, she had been that story. But not the truth. Not yet. Behind her, Diane Porter arranged documents neatly across the long table. Stacks of printed evidence, financial records, maintenance logs, screenshots of altered reports, grainy stills from backup camera footage, each piece quiet on its own. Together. Loud. You don't have to stand up there if you're not ready, Diane said, her voice calm. Tasha didn't turn. I am. She wasn't sure if that was entirely true, but she knew something else was. She couldn't walk away. Not now, not after everything. The door opened behind them. Edward Carter stepped in. He looked different. Not in appearance, so still composed, still precise, but something had shifted beneath it. The hesitation from the station was gone, replaced by something firmer, resolved. They're ready, he said. Tasha nodded once. Her hands were steady, stronger than she expected. Let's do it. Minutes later, the doors to the main press hall opened. The sound hit immediately, voices rising, questions thrown before anyone even reached the podium. Mr. Carter, is it true there was sabotage? What's your connection to the woman involved? Miss Williams, are you the one from the video? Flashes lit the room in rapid bursts, white, blinding. Tasha stepped forward beside Carter. Not behind him, beside him. The difference was small, but it mattered. The room quieted slowly as Carter reached the podium. He didn't rush, didn't react to the noise. He simply stood there until the energy settled into something closer to silence. Then he spoke. 4 days ago, he began, his voice steady, a young woman stopped me from boarding a train. A pause. Many of you saw the footage. Many of you formed opinions based on it. Tasha felt the weight of the room shift toward her. But what you didn't see, Carter continued, was what happened next. He stepped slightly to the side, gestured toward her. This is Tasha Williams. No hesitation, no apology, just her name. Clear, firm. She acted when no one else did, he said. She spoke when no one would listen, and because of that, my life and many others were spared. A murmur moved through the crowd. Reporters leaned forward. Pens moved faster. But that's not why we're here today, Carter said. He turned slightly, nodded once. The screens behind them lit up. Documents, images, evidence. The room went quiet again. Different this time. Heavier. Over the past few days, Carter continued, we've uncovered evidence of deliberate tampering with the train that derailed near Wilmington. The first image changed. Financial records, transfers, shell accounts. Funds were routed through a network of accounts connected to one individual. Another image. A name. Richard Hale. The room stirred. That same individual, Carter said, his voice tightening slightly, has been involved in multiple infrastructure projects over the last 2 decades. The next slide appeared. A report, 10 years old. A train accident. Marcus Williams. Tasha's breath caught. She hadn't expected to feel it like that. Even now. Even here. 10 years ago, Carter continued, a train accident was ruled operator error. The engineer, Marcus Williams, was blamed. A pause. Then, that ruling was false. The room erupted, voices rising, questions colliding. Are you saying, is this connected? Are you accusing? Carter raised his hand, and just like before, silence followed. We have evidence, he said, that safety protocols were deliberately bypassed, that reports were altered, and that the same pattern used 10 years ago was attempted again last week. The weight of it settled. Slowly. He turned his head slightly, looking directly at the side of the room. Mr. Hale, he said calmly, would you like to respond? All eyes followed. Richard Hale stood near the back. Perfect suit. Perfect posture. But something had cracked. Just slightly. This is absurd, Hale said, his voice controlled but thinner than before. Circumstantial. Speculative. Tasha watched him, really watched him. For the first time, she saw it. Not power, not confidence, fear. Carter didn't move. The evidence has already been submitted to federal authorities, he said. Right on cue, 2 agents stepped forward. Quiet, professional, unavoidable. Hale's expression shifted again, faster this time. Edward, you don't understand what you're doing, he said, his voice tightening. No, Carter replied calmly. I understand exactly. The agents reached him. Richard Hale, one of them said, you'll need to come with us. No struggle, no scene. Just the quiet collapse of something that had stood for too long. Hale glanced once toward Tasha. Their eyes met. For a second, something passed between them. Recognition. Then he was gone. The room exploded, questions shouted, cameras flashing, but Tasha didn't hear any of it, because something inside her, something that had been tight for 10 years, finally loosened. Not completely. Not yet. But enough. Carter turned back to the podium. One more thing, he said. The room quieted again. He looked at Tasha, then back at the cameras. Tasha Williams didn't know any of this when she acted, he said. She didn't know about the past. She didn't know about the connections. A pause. She simply saw something wrong and chose not to stay silent. Silence followed. Not empty. Full. Respectful. Tasha stepped forward slowly. Her heart beat steady now. Stronger. My father used to tell me something, she said, her voice soft but clear. If you see something wrong, you say something. She paused. Let it land. I didn't do anything special, she added. I just listened. Her voice wavered slightly. but didn't break. And I wasn't going to let anyone else lose someone the way I did. The room held that moment. No laughter, no whispers. Just listening. For the first time, they were listening. And as the cameras flashed again, as the truth finally stood in the open, one question remained. After everything she had been through, after everything she had lost and gained, what kind of life was waiting for her now? 3 months later, the mornings felt different. Not louder, not brighter, just steadier. Sunlight slipped through the thin curtains of a second-floor apartment on a quiet street in West Chicago. It wasn't a big place. 2 small bedrooms, a narrow kitchen, and a living room just wide enough for a couch and a table. But it was warm, clean, still. Tasha stood by the window, her hands wrapped around a mug of coffee, watching the light stretch across the buildings outside. People passed by below, walking dogs, heading to work, living lives that felt ordinary. For the first time in a long time, that didn't feel impossible. Behind her, Gloria sat in a chair near the window, a soft blanket draped across her lap. Her hands no longer trembled the way they used to. Her breathing was even, stable, safe. "You're up early," Gloria said gently. Tasha smiled without turning. "Guess I'm used to it." Gloria nodded. Old habits. A quiet pause settled between them. Peaceful. Tasha turned, walking over to the small table near the wall. A framed photograph sat there. Her father, Marcus Williams, standing beside a train, smiling in his uniform like he had nothing to fear. For years, that picture had carried weight, guilt, questions. Now, something else, truth. She adjusted the frame slightly, straightening it. "They cleared his record yesterday," she said softly. Gloria looked up. "They did?" Tasha nodded. "Officially. No more operator error." They called it what it was. Gloria's eyes filled slightly, but she smiled. "Your daddy would have liked that." Tasha let out a quiet breath. "I think he would." There was a knock at the door. Not urgent, not heavy, just expected. Tasha crossed the room and opened it. Edward Carter stood there. No security this time. No cameras. Just him. And Lucas, standing slightly behind him, holding something in his hands. "Hope we're not too early," Carter said. Tasha shook her head. "No, you're good." They stepped inside. Lucas walked in first, looking around with quiet curiosity. His eyes stopped when they landed on the photograph. "That's him?" he asked. Tasha nodded. "That's my dad." Lucas stepped closer, studying the picture. "He looks like he liked trains." Tasha smiled slightly. "He loved them." Lucas nodded, then held out what he had been carrying. A small book, hardcover, worn at the edges. "It's my favorite," he said. "It's about trains. I thought you might like it." Tasha hesitated for a second, then took it. "Thank you," she said softly. Lucas shrugged, a little shy now. "My grandpa says you saved me." Tasha knelt down to his level, eye to eye, the same way Carter had done for her. "You know what?" she said gently. "You helped save him too." Lucas frowned slightly. "I did?" She nodded. "You were the one who told him I was crying." Lucas thought about that, then smiled. "So, we both helped?" Tasha smiled back. "Yeah," she said. "We did." Behind them, Carter stood quietly, watching, not interrupting, not directing, just present. A different kind of power. The kind that didn't need to prove anything anymore. Later that afternoon, Tasha walked back into Union Station. Not as a worker, not as someone passing through, but as someone who had been there before and survived it. The station looked the same marble floors, the same echoing ceilings, the same constant motion of people moving through without noticing anything around them. But it felt different. Or maybe she did. She walked slowly past the spot where it had all happened, where she had fallen, where they had laughed, where she had been called crazy. Her fingers brushed lightly against the railing beside the platform. Just for a second. Then she kept walking. No hesitation, no fear, just forward. A small voice called out behind her. "Hey!" She turned. A man stood there, middle-aged, wearing a work jacket. He looked familiar. Not someone she knew, but someone who had been there that day. "I just wanted to say," he started, rubbing the back of his neck awkwardly. "I was here when it happened. I didn't say anything. I didn't help." Tasha didn't respond, just listened. "I should have," he added quietly. "You were right. And I just stood there." A pause. "I'm sorry." The words hung in the air. Simple, honest. Tasha nodded once. "Thank you," she said, and she meant it. Because for the first time, someone had seen her. Not as a problem, not as a headline, as a person. He gave a small nod and walked away. Tasha turned back toward the platform. The trains came and went. People rushed past. Life continued. But something had changed. Not the world. That would take longer. But something inside it. A shift. A crack. A reminder. That one voice, one choice, could change everything. She stepped out of the station and into the sunlight. The air felt lighter, warmer, real. And as she walked down the steps, blending into the rhythm of the city once more, her phone buzzed. A message from Carter. "Foundation meeting tomorrow? You ready?" She smiled slightly. Typed back. "Yeah, I'm ready." Because she was. Not just for what came next, but for everything that had brought her here. The pain, the doubt, the silence, and the moment she chose to break it. Because courage wasn't loud. It wasn't perfect. It didn't come with applause. Sometimes, it looked like a girl on her knees in a train station, refusing to stay quiet. And that was enough. If this story meant something to you, leave a comment. Because somewhere out there, someone is still deciding whether to speak, and your voice might be the one that helps them choose. When Tasha Williams fell to her knees on that cold marble floor, with everyone laughing and cameras pointed at her, she still chose to speak, because staying silent would have cost lives she'd never even meet. That's the kind of courage most people never see coming. One moment of truth, one decision to act, can rewrite not just your life, but someone else's future forever. So here's something simple you can do today. The next time you feel that quiet nudge, that something isn't right, or someone needs help, don't ignore it. Do what Tasha did. Speak, even if your voice shakes. If this story stayed with you, comment one below, and tell me, have you ever followed your instinct, even when no one else believed you? Because the next story might make you question what you would have done in that moment.